bring on our incredible speakers who are going to be telling you a lot more about the motoring industry, kind of the state it's in, where it's going in the future, some kind of tips and tricks to use when selling or buying a car, and a lot more other useful information. Of course, to those of you joining us on stream, make sure you shout us out and let us know how you're doing in the chat section. To you who've come out here in person, give yourselves a round of applause. You guys made it out here on a Saturday morning. That's amazing. It's amazing. Love your energy. We're going to get to meet some of you during the course of the day. Some of you still having a nibble. Let's start with you, lovely person. There we go. What is your name? Dimo. Fantastic. What do you do, Dimo? Car content creator. You have to have a think there. It's okay. Take your time. It's a safe space. We're all friends. There's no judgment. Before I did this, I used to study quantity surveying. Do you know what that is, sir? You don't. Neither do I. I have no idea what quantity surveying is. Took me 6 years to do a 3-year degree. Like you know you're at varsity for too long when they're offering you medical aid. Like that's when you've got to dip. I studied at Wits. My friends went to a UJ. Any UJ people in the house? Yes, two of you. We used to have a rivalry with UJ. They used to say UJ is the only varsity in South Africa designed for repeat students. No, think about it. Why else would they have a residence called Amproda? It's in the... Thank you, 7 of you who speak Afrikaans. We appreciate that. Let's meet this other lovely person. Your name, wonderful person.
My name's Greg.
Greg, lovely. Greg, you came ready. You came ready. I love your energy. Greg, are you like an oak? Are you an oak?
I'm
a boot. You guys know what I'm talking about. Every year, Greg and I, we go to Mshlanga. We drive our Verpas there. Lekker, Greg, lekker. Where are you from, Greg? Round here. Very vague. I like this. I like this. If Greg and I were playing 30 seconds, we'd be in so much trouble. We'd be in so much. The clues would not be making sense. It's not from forwards. Love your energy. It's all good. We're going to get to meet people. It's going to be a fun morning. We're going to be chatting to some incredible people. Also, I want to let you all know, whether you're tuning in on stream or you're here in person, we are giving away some prizes, right? 10 vouchers for 2,500 Rand worth of petroleum. Yes, 2,500 Rand petrol voucher. Yes, I haven't said how. There is a slight catch. You have to listen to all the presentations, and we're going to ask you some questions based on the presentations, right? If you get them correct, you win the prizes. Very simple, right? Questions are based on the presentation. We also have 10 advanced driving course vouchers available up for grabs. That's a part of it too, right? Yes? You're feeling good? It's all making sense now, yes. You're like, I'm glad I came out. I love the energy. This is great. This is great. I'm going to meet one more person before I start getting us into the theme of things. Your name, lovely person with the cap indoors. I love your energy. Sorry? Farsanani. That's wonderful. Where is that from? Venda. Fantastic. No. That's all I've got. That's all I've got. I've run out. That's fantastic. I'm from Katlung. Have you ever been, sir? You've never been? Not even by accident. Waze was like, take this 10. You've never. You know what's mad? Is anyone else here from a township? Anyone from a township? Yes? No? Just me? A few of us. For those of you who don't know, when you grow up in a township, you often eat food named after places you may never go in your life. Do you know what I mean? You're eating French paloni, Swiss roll, Russian. Guys, there's nobody in Russia eating a kota. What's going on over here? It's going to be a fun, really chill, laid-back morning. We've got some incredible presenters. In fact, I'm going to bring our first person onto the stage to tell us a little bit more about the future of cars, particularly electronic vehicles. So let's get a round of applause going from the front over here. Can we get a round of applause and move it across the room? There we go. Loving your energy. And please welcome our first presenter for today, the wonderful Wayne van der Merwe. Keep it going, keep it going. There we go. Yes. Yes, fantastic.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mojak. Good morning to everybody, and good morning to our online viewers. I'm Wayne van der Merwe. I work at Renault South Africa as the General Manager for New Products, and it's my honor and privilege today to speak about new energy vehicles. Topical discussions going around this very field of our automotive industry, moving at a rapid pace. But before we get into it, I think it's important that we go over a bit of jargon, because you're going to hear a lot of acronyms. So when we speak about NEV, we speak about new energy vehicles. When we speak about ICE, that's the internal combustion engine, HEV, hybrid electric vehicles. PHEV, plug-in electric vehicles, and BEV, battery electric vehicles. So what is an ICE engine? An ICE engine is your conventional combustion engine, usually works with air and fuel, and the greatest advantages there is that the power-to-weight ratio is good, the starting time is less, and you get some high efficiency, so great fuel consumption, especially in our modern days. Disadvantages, fuel is a bit costly. I think that 2,500 Rand is going to come in handy for our winners today, whether it's gasoline or whether it's diesel. There is the aspect of engine CO2 emissions and a lot of moving parts. So that's an ICE engine. I've got a little clip just to show you that puts it a little bit more into perspective.
Do the words auto mechanics make you curious? Actually, it's a cinch. A car is made up of wheels, seats, fuzzy dice, a body, and an engine. The internal combustion engine. The engine works in 4 stages. First, a valve opens and the piston lowers, letting a mixture of fuel and air into the combustion chamber. Second, as it comes up, the piston compresses the fuel-air mixture. Third, a spark from the spark plug ignites the mixture, which pushes the piston down again. Fourth, the exhaust valve opens and as it comes up, the piston pushes the spent gases out. And the cycle starts over again. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. The movement of the engine is transmitted to the wheels for the driver's delight.
Simple, right? I bet all of us came today in our vehicles that is driven by an ICE engine, and we move into the new energy space now. One that's becoming more common in our market and definitely more prevalent is the hybrid vehicles, HEVs. This combines a conventional internal combustion engine with an electric propulsion system, meaning that you've got an engine on board that charges the electric motor, which drives the wheels. Advantages there is that it works best in urban areas because it's self-charging. Yep, with HEV, no plug-in is required. Lower fuel consumption, significantly lower fuel consumptions, and certainly lower CO2 emissions. Some of the disadvantages, it's a higher level of complexity. There's added weight because there's additional batteries. And the purchase price currently is one of our biggest constraints. The plug-in version of that is exactly the same. Internal combustion engine that charges the electric motor, but a certain level of plug-in is required. And added disadvantage there is that obviously added costs with having to plug it in. Short little clip just to explain to us HEVs.
Hybrid technology combines the power and range of an internal combustion engine with the environmental benefits of an electric motor. The way that the engine and electric motor are combined varies from vehicle to vehicle, but generally places the electric motor between the engine and the wheels. The electric propulsion system requires a very efficient battery to store electrical energy and a control unit that manages the electrical power flow between the battery and the motor. Almost all hybrid vehicles are able to charge the propulsion batteries using the internal combustion engine. A regular car battery is also used to power accessories such as the lights, horn, and various other control modules of the vehicle. At low speeds, the electric motor is used to drive the wheels without any assistance from the engine. When accelerating or cruising at high speeds, the engine is used to propel the vehicle. Many hybrid vehicles combine both propulsion systems under heavy acceleration to increase power to the wheels.
All right, that's your hybrid setup. Now we go into the future. And the future is here, battery electric vehicles. This is where it's exclusively propelled by electric rechargeable battery packs, but with no secondary source of propulsion. Zero emissions, zero fuel consumption, and lower maintenance because there's less moving parts. The disadvantages, higher purchase price. That's currently one of the biggest blocking points for the emergence of electric vehicles in our country. Fueling takes longer because it requires plug-in and recharging, and you've got limited travel range and charging points. Quick little video just to show you how all that works. So you've got your 12-volt battery that starts up the vehicle, converter then pushes the power from the propulsion battery into the high voltage generator, and the electric motor drives the wheels. That's on, start, and drive. One way that the battery pack also recharges is using the kinetic energy under braking or deacceleration, and the motor pushes all that back into the converter and recharges the batteries on board. But the AC plug-in is what is mostly needed, whether it's at home, whether it's at the service station, or whether it's at the mall. So 100% electric with no other form of propulsion. What does this all mean for the South African industry? The South African automotive industry is SA's largest manufacturing sector. It accounts for about 60 to 70% of all our exports goes to European countries. And I think what is concerning is that since 3 out of every 4 vehicles exported were destined for Europe, we have to make developments locally to keep up with the rest of the world. These countries are moving at a rapid pace and announcing their switch over into electric vehicles or new energy vehicles. And it's estimated that by 2038, ICE engines should be dead, all right? Meaning that it's either only electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. In reality, this milestone can be reached sooner. So you can see it's important for us to get with the program, so to speak. It's not just about importing and selling, it's about local manufacturing. Also, Europe has superseded China, who's been a leader in the growth of new energy vehicles. And it's clear that NEVs is an inevitability rather than a possibility. What's needed? We need smart and efficient charging infrastructure. When we speak infrastructure, it's not just plug points. We can have thousands of plug points everywhere. What do you think is going to happen if you plug in 1,000 vehicles right now to charge? The grid is going to go. So the infrastructure that we're talking about is not just plug points, but it's numerous infrastructures within a bigger infrastructures. We need to be able to generate power. We need to have a smart grid that kind of pushes that power into various spaces, like service stations, homes especially, because that's the one place where you charge your vehicle mostly. We need better batteries that last longer. Range anxiety is real. City driving, electric vehicle makes sense, but if you move from here to Cape Town, it becomes a little bit more tricky. And then vehicles needs to be built with kind of lighter materials to make it go further. So when we speak infrastructure, it's a larger infrastructure that has many smaller infrastructures within it. The global move is happening fast, people. Norway has announced by 2025 there will be zero emissions, meaning that the car market would be 100% EVs. The UK pulled theirs forward by 5 years. They said 2035, and they've just recently announced 2030. So that's 5 years sooner than previously planned. Example is Australia. To come 2025, and you're in Australia and you want to finance a new vehicle, it can only be for an EV. They will not finance you for a normal internal combustion engine. They reckon that not everybody will be able to afford a full EV in 3 years' time. So they would still, for a short period of time, finance used vehicles in the normal ICE engine. When we look at the future, we need to sustain, we truly need a sustainable future. 64% of our annual vehicle production is for export markets. There's a green paper currently with government that the automotive industry is waiting for. So this outlines what the government should do and produce a white paper, it's called, which includes legislation, incentives, and encourage people to take up EVs. And a great investment in the tax system, but also raw material supply. Just a quick reminder that for the domestic automotive industry to remain relevant, it needs to be integrated into a global EV value chain. And it is clear that the rise of EVs is inevitable. If we want to continue doing business with Europe and the UK, I think we need to get our ducks in a row, so to speak, and focus more on local production of components and vehicles to continue that export. Exports of our vehicles contribute 4.9% of our GDP, so it's quite significant. Although it's moving at a very slow pace in South Africa, I think there's quite a bit of challenges still that we have to face in terms of especially infrastructure, but also legislation. So, South African snapshot. Many challenges ahead. The current state of affairs does not favor implementation of EVs, not at the rapid speed in any case. For EVs to dominate in the next few years, we need reliable and sustainable energy, not just charging points, the production of energy and the allowance to be able to use these vehicles on our road. We see private companies coming to the party, so charging points doesn't seem to be the problem. There's about 170 charging points nationally today, and one big player is grid cars. They have charging points on major travel routes from Joburg to Cape Town and Durban, and in the great metropolitans. If you go a little bit more urban or suburban, those plug points and charging points start reducing. So it's important that, besides just the plug points, we need to get our grid in order to supply. Right now, the EV space and HEV space is dominated by luxury vehicles only, very premium, not for the conventional or normal man in the street. Certainly, I won't be able to afford one right now. But we're also seeing a great emergence in the growth of searches for used electric vehicles. I don't think that's something that's going to happen anytime soon, because we're yet to see what that maintenance and turnaround is of electric vehicles. But still, very much in the premium space. But Auto Trader has showed us that there was a search increase of 134%, people looking for electric vehicles. We need to also acknowledge that there's a fiscus impact. Fuel levies is the government's fourth biggest and most efficiently collected revenue stream. At present, there's levy on anything fuel, petrol, diesel, biodiesel, and under the current levy structure, the EV uptake would significantly impact fiscus over time. We also import quite a bit of crude oil. If we reduce our oil imports by just over 6% less than current, we'd save about 8 billion rand per annum. Something very interesting is that if 1 million EVs, that's electric vehicles, drive 20,000 km per year, there'll be less 58 petajoules of fuel use. What is a petajoule? It's about 278 million kilowatts of electricity. You stop at the fuel pump, as soon as you click that handle, 12% goes to levies. Quite a significant revenue stream for our government. And if fuel sales drop and increase of EVs are faster than expected, you can imagine the big revenue stream risk. But that's not stopping the commercial space. We're seeing already in the commercial space, because the running cost is quite low, kilometer by kilometer versus a normal combustion engine, definitely lower. It's that first purchase up front that's the biggest challenge. So we're seeing some companies already making use of this electric vehicles. Rental business is a little bit more skeptic at this stage, because first off, when you're renting a car, you're looking for the most affordable vehicle. Then it's a matter of a quick refill and off you go. So currently, with the cost being the biggest stopping point, we will continue seeing people go for that affordable cars with a quick refuel versus an electric vehicle that you're going to have to wait a couple of hours to refuel. But it's not stopping the competition. We're seeing an influx of hybrid vehicles coming into our market. A certain Chinese brand has just launched a second hybrid model in their range in less than 6 months. Great cars, great specs, great pricing, and that's currently the big challenge that everybody faces. But even in the premium space, an announcement was made of a certain model, and within 24 hours, all the EVs that they brought into the country were sold. A recent announcement that was made, GWM will possibly introduce what would be the cheapest EV in South Africa. Where does that leave us as Renault? Renault currently globally has the widest range of new energy vehicles, ranging from commercial cars to passenger cars. Big player in Europe, big player globally, and yes, we've got the weaponry to introduce locally. It's just we need a lot of support still from all various stakeholders in order to be able to play in this space. So we'll be proud followers. And with that said, if you happen to enter downstairs, we have our very first hybrid model in South Africa. The Renault Arcana is said to be the godfather of hybrids for Renault, as it's the first model that they've introduced as a hybrid. Great fuel consumption coming from this car, great specs, and we're working hard in getting it into South Africa as soon as possible. Another model would be Capture. that plays in this space as well. And these are just two of our models that we'll be looking at introducing, moving into this new energy space. In conclusion, the future of our automotive industry in South Africa lies large scale in local production and component exports if you want to stay competitive. It's therefore a general acknowledgement in the domestic industry that it must think differently in the way it provides and perceives the NEV evolution. Export remains key to generate sufficient economies of scale and achieve improved international competitiveness. If South Africa does not want to lose its major export markets and face significant job losses at plant level, export revenue, as well as a substantial drop in automotive industry contribution to GDP, which I remind you is 5% today, it must accelerate its new energy vehicles transformation rapidly in this country. I thank you, and I'll hand over to our next speaker.
One more time for Wayne. Round of applause. That was incredible. Wayne, before you leave, I do have one question for you, actually. I'm curious about the possibility of putting charging points in our homes. How far are we from that possibility?
So you can, Mojak.
Yeah.
We did a bit of a study. The cheapest application for home charging is about 60,000 Rand.
Okay.
You need 5,000 Rand for a special plug. This is the cheapest we could find, right? It's about 5,000 Rand for a special plug that goes into your socket.
Sure.
And to integrate your house into being able to charge your vehicle
Yes.
would cost about 55 to 60,000 Rand. So not a cheap exercise. But yes, it is possible.
Final question. And how long would that take on average to charge a regular kind of passenger vehicle?
Again,
Time-wise?
there's different components. You can have a slow charge where you're just pulling the current as normal.
Sure.
That's going to take you a long time.
Okay.
I think overnight would get you like a half charge. Then you get the rapid charging. So the box that I was speaking about, there's different levels of them. So rapid charge could take you anywhere between 3 and 4 hours, and that can get you on your way.
Fantastic. Another round of applause for Wayne giving us those incredible insights. You know a little bit more about the EV space. Of course, like we said earlier, we're giving away prizes. All you have to do is answer these 2 easy questions. I'm going to go with the first one. I hope you guys are listening. If you're here in person, you have to write your answer down. We'll collect them later and give out the prize at the end. If you're streaming, write it in the chat, and we'll be giving away those prizes at the end. So here we go. The first question is, do hybrid vehicles need external charging? That's our first question regarding Wayne's presentation. One more time. Do hybrid vehicles need external charging? I'll give you a moment to answer that one. And our second question, what are the benefits of driving a hybrid vehicle or an electric vehicle? That's one more time for you. What are the benefits of driving a hybrid vehicle or an electric vehicle? Yeah, go ahead, write your answers. Make sure you have your name on top of your sheet so we know who to give the prize to. Or we will accept it on your behalf. There we go, giving everyone a moment. Remember, if you're at home, let us know in the chats. The hashtag is also Renault Car Convo. Going to give everyone one more second to write down their answer. Man, this is incredible. You all look so studious. This is, I feel like an invigilator. This is wild. Relax, guys. This is not for marks. It's just prizes. Don't stress too much. Feeling good. There we go. Everybody ready? Yes? We're going to give everyone one more second just to write their answers down before we move on to our next presenter. Here we go. All right, gang. We'll give you an opportunity a little bit later during our intermission to fill in those answers. But we're going to, again, bring on our next speaker with an incredible round of applause. Let's get the clap going from this side of the room this time, and then move it across. There we go. Everybody get involved. And please welcome to the stage the fantastic Shane Kruger. There we go. Good morning, Shane.
Thank you, Mojak.
How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very great energy here today.
It's fantastic. For the people who don't know exactly what it is you do, what your expertise are, can you give us a little bit more of a background about what you do in the motoring industry?
So I started in the motor industry in 1994 in sales, the most exciting career that you can get into. I then moved on to dealer principal for 10 years, and I have been a regional director and franchise executive for the last 6 years, overseeing Renault and the multi-franchise businesses.
Fantastic. Of course, we wanted to chat to you about kind of the business of selling a vehicle, some things that you can look out for, some tips and tricks. Firstly, what are the things people can do when they want to kind of retain their value, when they want to resell it at a later stage?
So, Mojek, there are two aspects. There is the aspect where the customer can look after their own vehicle and build value in it. And then the second aspect is, how do you dispose of a car? Let me start on the process of building value starts from day one. So if you have the opportunity whilst buying a vehicle, look at products like warranties, paint techs, service plans. All of this adds value later on down the line.
Sure.
There are three main aspects that a buyer will look at, which will be the service history, it will be the condition of the vehicle, and the mileage. Service history, it's imperative that vehicles are serviced at the regular intervals, and preferably through the OEM. You know, these are people that know your car. They've got specialist technicians, you're guaranteed of original parts, and also if there are any comebacks, you know, it's easy to refer back to them.
Sure.
And when you're buying a car, it's easy to trace this back and to verify.
Sorry, Sean, to interrupt. For those who don't know what OEM, that's original equipment manufacturer,
Correct.
right?
So if you have a Renault dealer. If you have a VW dealer.
Fair.
With the right to repair, you also now have the option of going to an RMI-approved service center, but make sure that you keep a record of that. Because when someone's buying the vehicle, they're going to ask for proof of that. The second aspect is the condition of the car, which would refer to your paintwork, to the bodywork, your tires, windscreen, the cleanliness of the car. And the third aspect is the mileage. So what buyers would normally look at is an average of 20,000 kilometers per year.
Okay.
If you're within that sort of bracket and you fulfill the previous two criteria, you should get a decent price for the vehicle.
I've got an interesting question. Often people talk about the previous owners.
Yes.
How does that influence? Is it better to buy a car that is driven by an old lady who's retired or a young person who's just out of uni? Is that still a factor in the modern kind of world?
All the cars are owned by old ladies. But it does make a difference, you know, depending on the amount of owners the vehicles had previously. And you know, from an experienced buyer's point of view, each vehicle has its own personality.
Sure.
You know, as you approach a car, you can see if the vehicle has been looked after, you know, and you can see vehicles that have been abused. You know, you open certain boots and you can see guys have been loading their sand and garden refuge, and it just hasn't been cleaned. There's stains all over the seats. So it's very important to look after the car. You know, it is the second probably most valuable asset that most people will own after purchasing a house.
Sure, that's incredible. I think I'm quite intrigued by the idea of what the car was used for. Does that also influence? You know, we have private buyers who obviously go back and forth to work versus somebody who's using a vehicle for more commercial purposes.
Agreed. You know, they say the most versatile car is a rental car. 4x4. You can do anything in a rental car.
Sure.
So it does make a difference, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm quite curious, when it comes to the act of selling your car, what's the best way to get the appropriate value for your car? And how do you go about finding that out?
What most of the industry work off is a TransUnion trade and retail value. So this is the value that your insurance companies will use to insure the vehicle. Banks will look at what the equity in the vehicle is when you finance it. So the trade value normally is what that car should stand the dealer in at.
Sure.
The retail value is that portion between the trade and retail that covers costs, profits, that type of thing. But in a market where there's an oversupply or undersupply, those sort of figures fall by the wayside. And then you would have to see what the market's offering.
Sure.
And the best way to gauge it is to go onto your retail sites. You've got the major sites in the actual country. Go look up your specific car, and you'll see what that vehicle is selling for. But you have to take into account that that's the best possible price. That's taking into account dealer costs, it's taking into account commissions, and also understand that that dealer has to cover that vehicle for a 6-month period under the Consumer Protection Act.
Okay, well, you've brought up something quite interesting. So what a dealer may sell a car for might be above what they've bought it for because of the work they've had to put in to get it in the right kind of state.
It will always have to, yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whereas if you're selling your car privately, it's footstoots. So
Yes.
once you've received your money, there's no further recourse on you. Whereas if a dealer sells that vehicle, they have to be able to back it up. There's dealer reputational image that has to be looked after as well.
Shane, I'm curious about this idea of footstoots for those who don't know it from a legal perspective. What does that mean exactly, to sell or purchase an item footstoots as is?
So in the car game, it means that the buyer has the opportunity to inspect the actual vehicle. And if it's a private sale, it means that once you've purchased that car and signed the document, you have no further recourse. So if you drive out the driveway and that engine packs up, you cannot go back to that private seller and say, I want my money back. That's the difference.
So in essence, there's no liability on the seller once
On the seller.
that's been made, that transaction is complete.
Agreed.
Fair. I'm also curious, where can people go? You've got your car, you've decided to move on, maybe you're upgrading or you're downscaling. What kind of the platforms that people can use to get a fair value?
There are three major platforms. So there's the private sale. You can put the vehicle on certain websites,
Sure.
advertise it privately. If you go onto the web and say, sell my car, you will see many companies now offering you values. This is probably the easiest, the most efficient way. So what you do is you put the details of your vehicle in. Normally anywhere from between 20 minutes to within a day, you will get feedback. So what happens in these cases is that the companies will give you the best possible price, because obviously they want you to contact them and say, can we have a look at the actual vehicle? So always take in mind, if they've offered you 100,000, after inspection they'll look at tires, windscreen, bodywork, service history. So there's a possibility that that pricing will drop on the physical inspection. And the third option is to pop into a dealer. You'll know there are thousands of car dealers. They're all looking for stock. If you drive past most dealers now, you'll note it says we pay cash for cars. So pop into a dealer, speak to the used car manager, let them do a physical evaluation. 9 times out of 10, if you're happy with the price, they'll do the transaction immediately and you get paid within a day.
I'm intrigued. What are the benefits? You've talked about kind of these platforms that allow you to sell your car. Your dealerships are doing a private sale. What are the pros and cons of each of these types of kind of transactions?
The riskiest transaction is going to be your private sale.
Sure. And why is that?
You never know who is making the inquiry on the actual vehicle. There's the possibility of being hijacked. The biggest problem at the moment is scam payments, where it looks as though you've been paid for the actual vehicle, and the next day you realize that that transaction payment fee has been reversed and your car's gone. The other risk is, there are people who will be looking for a certain vehicle. So that vehicle will be identified for a possible theft used in a certain situation. Probably the safest aspect is popping into a reputable dealer.
Can we just step back a second? So if you are doing, let's say, a private deal, how can you protect yourself as a seller to kind of avoid those kind of situations?
Always make sure you know who you're dealing with. Make sure that person is legitimate. Upfront, confirm how the payment is going to be made. Never release the vehicle until that money is in your account and you've confirmed that it is being cleared.
Sure. That's a great kind of advice to anyone who's selling privately.
And it's also a good idea to meet in a public place, or preferably meet at a dealer. Most dealers would be more than happy to accommodate you meeting on the actual platform. It gives them an opportunity to maybe put you into a new car.
Sure. Well, as soon as you've sold yours, right? So tell us about the experience of selling to a dealer. What's that like? What are the pros and the cons of selling to a dealership?
The nice thing about a dealer is that you know who you're dealing with. Once the transaction happens, dealerships know how to handle it. So they'll sort the paperwork out for you. Normally that transaction is fairly simple, straightforward. They get that vehicle taken out of your name very, very quickly.
Sure.
The other important factor is that if you are selling privately, most times that car isn't transferred. So there's certain forms that you have to sign.
Like NATIS documents.
NATIS documents. Sure. If that NATIS document isn't completed, 1 year later you'll be receiving fines. That car could have been used in a criminal offense and that car hasn't changed ownership. So there's a yellow form that needs to be signed. You can personally take it in and ensure that that vehicle does transfer ownership.
Of course, the last kind of platform, these new sites that have popped up that will purchase your car for you. Well, what's the experience like in that regard?
They are fairly efficient. So my suggestion is wait for the pricing to come in.
Okay.
There are probably 3 or 4 decent big guys. If you're happy with the actual price, they'll normally make an appointment to come through and see you. Or you can pop into their showrooms. My suggestion is don't accept the first price.
Okay.
You know, what will happen is there'll be 3 top prices. Make appointments with all 3 guys.
Sure.
Make sure all 3 of them see it. You'll always be pressurized to say, if I give you this price now, can I take the car now?
Well, I think what I'm noticing is that there's kind of responsibility as a seller to do your due diligence, to do research, and to go about. How big a deal is that? Because some people just want to get rid of cars. Do you think they should be a little bit more patient when kind of doing these transactions?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. You have to understand that if you're being put under pressure to take the vehicle, there's value in it, which means that the concern is that there's a higher price coming. You know, so be a little bit patient. Make sure you get all 3 or 4 people to look at the actual vehicle, and that's how you'll get a higher value.
Shane, I'm also curious about what can kind of sellers do before they sell the car. I know small things,
Yes.
maybe wash and valet it. Some people don't even think about that, but what kind of things can they do?
Very, very important. If you're wanting to sell your car and you're serious, make sure it's clean. Have it valeted. What buyers do, if they approach a vehicle and the vehicle's dirty, they will have to make the assumption that there's something wrong with the paintwork because you can't see it. And that could affect that offer by quite a large percentage value. You know, there's also, if the vehicle's dirty and it doesn't look the actual part, the question gets asked, does that owner see the value in that car, and could we offer a lower price? So very, very important to have a clean car.
So there's definitely kind of perceptions that dealers have when it comes to intake of vehicles and so forth.
Agreed.
You spoke previously about service history.
Yes.
Sometimes people grapple with the idea of having to pay a lot of money to fix a car or just sell it as it is. How do you kind of weigh out those options if you have major repair work that needs to be done? Or maybe you can just disclose it to the dealership and that becomes their responsibility.
So what happens often is that a customer that wants to sell a vehicle will take the car to get repaired. If that repair hasn't been done correctly, the assumption is that the vehicle's been involved in an accident.
Oh, wow.
So normally it could be a minor scratch. You take it to a friend who says, I can do this job for you. Rather leave the scratch, take it through, so that that dealer can use their own suppliers who are approved, and the repair can be done properly, and then the dealer is able to justify that to the next buyer.
Sure. I'm curious, I've also been on these kind of sites where they have DECRA reports. Is there value in kind of DECRA? What is DECRA first and foremost, and how does that help improve your chances of selling your vehicle?
Most definitely. So what DECRA do is they will do a full bumper-to-bumper inspection on the actual vehicle. It's a thorough report. If they have been through the vehicle, they also take a certain accountability. So if something has been missed, even from a dealer's point of view, you can refer back to DECRA, and they are always open. So yeah, that is something that I would most certainly recommend.
Doing
So
that
even if-
inspection.
That inspection.
Sure.
Even if it's a private sale, if you're looking at purchasing a vehicle or selling it, if you add that DECRA report, it certainly adds value.
Oh, that's I think an important thing for people to look at. So also they know what they're walking into when they're selling the vehicle, because there are obviously things that we don't spot when we drive
Yes.
a car. And so what are other things people can do just prior to a sale in terms of basic all-around inspections of the interiors, exterior, and some of the mechanical components?
If you're serious about letting go of the vehicle and want the best possible price, you have to have everything ready. Have your documents ready. Be prepared to let that vehicle go. As you know, a vehicle is a depreciating asset. So every month that vehicle drops. You know, if you are looking at selling a car towards the end of the month, what most people or what most dealers would actually do is say, well, this car is going to drop by 2% at the end of the month. So they would start looking forward. So try and get in the first half of the month.
Yep.
Make sure the documentation is ready. If they make you a price that you're keen on, be prepared to let it go, because guys will offer you very strong prices if their car can go now.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm also curious about the timing of a sale. Some people claim you should buy a car at the end of the month. Is there a good time to sell a car? Does it matter?
It doesn't make a major difference, but like I said, just in that part of the month, the early part of the actual month, the guys want to get the vehicles in. So how a dealer works is they'd like to get that vehicle in as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So if you take the vehicle through in the early part of the month, they have a couple of days to get the vehicle prepared, put it onto their website, and hopefully retail it within the same month.
Okay.
If you get the vehicle in after the 15th, you then have to take that vehicle, recondition it, get it back onto your floor, And by that time, that vehicle value has dropped by 1 month, which would be 2%.
Oh, okay.
So that is the risk that that dealers take. So if they offer you an extremely strong price, and that vehicle hasn't retailed off their floor within a 2-month period, it's 2% plus 2%. So that drops.
Okay, that's interesting information for all of us who own our cars. I didn't know that a car kind of drops in value 2% every month. That's quite fascinating. What about if it's a collectible? Does that affect anything?
So the collectibles are a niche market. We don't really deal in that. But the collectibles, from my understanding, are able to maintain the actual value. And the fewer cars that are on the road, that value actually increases.
Okay, I have one more question in terms of what's the worst person you've had try sell a car to you? What's been the worst experience?
So the worst experience at the moment, as I'm sure most people have probably read about, is the salvage car business.
Ooh, okay, tell us a little bit more about that.
So what a salvage car is, it's a vehicle that's been involved in an accident, and the insurance company has declared it uneconomical to repair. So normally they would have that changed to a code 2.
Okay.
So what they do is they will sell this vehicle, somebody would purchase it, have this vehicle repaired, but it won't be up to manufacturer specifications, and in most times there's no warranty.
Okay.
And it only gets picked up later. So the OEM would be notified, the warranty would be cancelled, and unknowingly you'd be thinking that you're buying a a low mileage, fairly new car. But this vehicle has been involved in a major accident.
Sure.
And at a later stage, there's actually zero value to this car. Most dealers cannot sell it on to one of their customers due to brand reputation damage, and also from a safety point of view. But
Sure.
I think there has just been a ruling recently where this information now has to be disclosed.
The language for that, from what I know, used to be write-off, right? That used to be
Write-off.
kind of the colloquial word.
Correct.
A write-off. So those are the cars you kind of want to avoid completely.
Avoid.
Oh, okay.
So it can be sold, but you
Yes.
sell it for what it is.
I understand.
So you sell it as whatever the actual code is, and if it's a write-off vehicle, you know what you're purchasing.
Okay.
But there's nothing worse for an unsuspecting customer to now buy a vehicle thinking that the car is in very good nick, and the airbags are missing.
Sure.
The chassis is bent.
Oh no. Yeah, subframes and so forth.
Agreed.
Okay, so you have to look out for that structural damage and the nature and condition of the vehicle. You just mentioned something interesting to me. Is a car that's still in warranty more valuable than one that's out of?
Most definitely. So a vehicle that's in warranty, if anything major goes wrong, there's recourse.
Sure.
And usually a gearbox issue or an engine issue can be quite costly.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 50,000 to 120,000. So you have to be very careful. Obviously, there are vehicles that go outside of warranty, but that's acceptable.
Sure.
You know what you're getting in, and that depreciation value after 3 years or 5 years, you can take the extended warranties to actually cover that.
Okay, so there are things in place to help people whose cars are no longer within their warranty period.
Agreed.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Shane, any final things you'd like to add to help people out there who are in the process of kind of selling their car that could serve them in that process?
Selling a car is always a negotiation. The seller wants the highest price, the buyer wants the lowest price. What we always say, it is a sales game. A lot of people who are selling cars get upset by the initial price, but I suggest it's a game, it's a negotiation, it's an exciting process, and always be open for the negotiation and never accept the first price.
That's fantastic. One more time for Shane. Give him a round of applause. There we go. Shane, before you leave, I just want to check if we have any questions on the floor, anything in interest that kind of sparked the thought or idea. Anyone on the floor? Yes? No? Nobody? No? Shy. Everyone's a little bit nervous. It's okay. It's a safe space. We're going to take a little bit, a few questions online, then we'll come back to Shane. One more time for Shane. Round of applause.
Thank you.
So now you know, gang, make sure you take care of your car, give it that thorough wash. It's good times. Are you well? Lovely person? Are you the shirt? Are you good? What's your name? Siobhan. Shavar. Fantastic. What do you do, if you don't mind me asking? You're in the actuarial space. You are making the equations. Like none of us know what's going on. We all act like we know what actuaries do, but we have using very different calculators to us. Fantastic. Who are you with? What organization? PPS. Okay, fantastic. Oh, all right. No, I recently had to deal with like an insurer, which is tricky sometimes because they ask you security questions that stress you out. Also, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where they're like, do you have an account at Bradlow's? Then you're like, guys, I hope I don't. And if I do, now's a terrible time to kind of find out. Of course, selling a car can be quite an interesting journey, and you have to make sure you're aware of all the things that are at stake. I'm with Standard Bank. They've been helping me recently. Of course, lots of other companies. MFC, who've joined us today. We've got all kinds of finance houses. We're going to chat about that a little bit later, where to go, how to kind of figure out where to take your car. But before we do, one last person before we take a brief intermission. Lovely person over there behind this gentleman with the cap. What is your name? Yes. Joy, like just happiness. That's amazing. I love that. We're done. That's great. What do you do, Joy? In human resource, the hiring and firing of. I'm going to walk away because I don't want this gig to end just yet. That's fantastic, Joy. What organization are you here with? Direct sales. Okay. That's fantastic. It's nice to meet you. It's been good times. We're going to check in with everybody. You guys still good? Yes, you well? Yes? It's been fantastic. We're going to take a brief intermission now, give you guys a wonderful comfort break. Go grab some snacks. To everybody who's joining us on the stream, please make sure you keep sending in your questions and engaging with a Renault Car Convo. And we're going to be back here in a short while. So we'll see you guys in a bit. Give yourselves a round of applause. You've been a fantastic audience thus far. We're going to take a short break. We'll see you back here in 10. Okay, thanks. Bye. if you are streaming in. We don't know what you are snacking on, but we support it. Welcome back, everyone. You good? Yes? Everyone all right? Love it. I love your energy, lovely person. What is your name at the end there? At the end, what is your name, lovely person? Nicholas. Lovely African name. What do you do, Nicholas? It's a safe space, Nick. It's a safe space. What do you do, Nick? FMCG. We're all going to act like we know what you are talking about. What is FMCG, lovely person? Fast-moving commercial goods. What? You've given me more information and made me more confused. That's wild. Can you give us an example of one of those? Tiger bread. Okay, cool. Okay, oh, now I understand. Oh, you should have said loaf brown at the top, and then I would have known exactly what you were talking about. It's nice to meet you, Nick. Nick, who you sat next to? Who's that lovely person next to you? Clinton. Lovely Clint. Lovely. Is that leather or leather? It's real. I'm just checking. We're just checking. Love your work. What do you do, Clint? What do you do, Clint? Warehouse manager. Yes, e-commerce store. Inner space warehouse. Love your work. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. You good? You well? Enjoyed your break? Love it. Last person. Say one more time for me, please. A bit late. You could have moved on, Clinton. Now you have made us aware of your lateness. we were all fine, but now we are aware that you were late. It's all good. We're going to meet one more person. Lovely person with the rouge. What is your name, lovely person? Yes. Amanda, lovely Amanda, loving the hair, love the vibe. I remember I was once on a natural hair journey, rock and roll. My friends didn't want me. I had cornrows. They were too tight. Then I couldn't move my neck. Then I was there greeting my friends. You know those... Who here has had braids where you just look surprised for 2 weeks? Do you know what I'm talking about? Where your eyes are like, you are ready to cry for a whole week. You are shocked at everything. Good morning. Shocked. It's Wednesday. Shocked for... Natural hair journey is expensive. There's a conditioner, and then there's a silk toque, then there's a thing and a bonnet. I didn't know. Because men we just go, we get our hair cut, and then they hit us with methylated spirits. Gents, do you know what I'm talking about? You know that it burns, eh? But you must act normal in that chair. Yeah, tell up, boy. You are crying there, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Yo, it's painful, huh? Then the barber tries to show you in the mirror. You're like, bro, I trust you. Just let's get this moving. Let's get out of here as soon as possible. We're settling in. We're getting it going. Hopefully you guys are well. Everyone who's tuning into the stream at home, thank you for joining us. Of course, after our last presentation with Shane, we didn't get to ask you these wonderful questions. So hopefully you guys are ready. Remember, we're giving away 10 petrol vouchers worth 2,500 Rand, and of course some advanced driving courses. Just to clarify, what we're going to do is we're going to collate the correct answers, and then we're going to pick randomly. That's how we're going to award the prizes, right? We're going to collate the correct answers and then pick randomly from there, if I'm not mistaken. So here we go. Our first question regarding Shane's presentation is, which 3 indicators will assist you in getting the best price for your car? I'm going to repeat that one more time. Which 3 indicators will assist you in getting the best price for your car? We hope you were listening in the last one. One more time, just for the hell of it. Which 3 indicators will assist you in getting the best price for your car? All right, our next question is, which platforms can you look into to get an indication of the best price for your car? That's one more time. Question number 2 is, which platforms can you look into to get an indication of the best prices for your car? We're going to give you a second to write down your answers, whether you're joining us here in person or streaming from home. Remember to let us know in the chat section if you are streaming this from somewhere else. I'm going to repeat those one more time. Which 3 indicators will assist you in getting the best price for your car? That was question 1 regarding Shane's discussion. And number 2, which platforms can you look into to get an indication for the best price of your car? We still have a couple of people jotting down. We're going to give them a second to answer the question. I don't know if you can consult a neighbor. What are the rules? Can you consult? I'm hearing no. You can. It's okay. It's not that deep, Oaks. It's not that deep. Today's results have not been independently audited by KPMG. We're just going to cross our fingers. Good luck to all of you. I'm going to give you a couple more seconds to put in those answers, whether you're in chat or joining us in person, before we move on to our next presenter. Yes, we're good. It's feeling good. It's feeling like everybody's almost there, almost ready. Yes, answers are in. Our content creators, I believe in them. Power of the internet, they are ready. It's all good. On this side of the room, everyone cool here? I feel like I've neglected this side of the room. Hello, gang. Hi. This is great. Yes. Are you well? You're all good. I'm loving the energy here. You look nervous. Why does this side of the room look so nervous? What's going on? You are giving me +1 energy. I don't know I don't know what's going on. This lovely person right in my line of sight. What is your name, lovely person? Right in my line of sight. Yes. No, this gentleman over here. Sorry? Uitumetse. Uitumetse. Everyone calls you Oi. Goi. Cool. That's rock and roll. That's, yeah. That's very hip hop. I like that. What do you do, lovely person? You work in marketing for a cement manufacturer. Wow, this is quite a broad, broad interest. Lovely group of people. That's fantastic. Who are you here with, if you don't mind me asking? Are you rolling solo dolo, or do you have a partner in crime? Solo dolo. We support it. We give thanks. It's great. Good times over here. You guys all right? Yes? We're going to move on to our next presenter. Is everyone good on this side? Yes? Fantastic. A lovely person. I know. I caught you at the wrong time. As you were nibbling, I wanted you to start a clap for me. So let's do it. Let's go for it. Let's go. Get a clap going. Yes. Yes. Same person I was chatting to earlier. Let's get a clap going for our next presenter. It's all good. Let's move it across the room. Everybody get involved. And please welcome to the stage, wonderful Darren Sookraj. Yes. That's fantastic.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and online viewers. My name is Darren Sookraj, and I'm from Vehicle Asset Ownership at MFC Nedbank. So today I have the actual privilege of taking you through some insights around the financial journey. And I do hope that these actually assist you if this is a journey that you are actually looking forward to taking up. Now, before we actually jump straight into the finance portion, I think it's quite key that we actually understand, where does this journey all begin? So the reason I say this is, we understand no person wakes up at a morning and has an isolated thought that today I'm gonna need finance, or I want finance. It's actually an idea, and this idea is usually driven by either a thought, potentially an emotion. It could be an event or a series of events that actually becomes the trigger point for this idea. So it could be as simple as, do I wear flats or heels on my way to the bus stop? Or if you look at today and the weather that we're faced with, would I need to actually use an umbrella or a raincoat? It could be a simple decision as actually jumping into a taxi or utilizing an Uber. For some, we understand that it might be a status boost. In other cases, it creates a sense of progress. Having the ability to create ownership over an asset that you know is yours. In other instances, independence. I think we all know that with mobility, there's a large sense of independence that comes from that. And then finally, it could be something as simple as convenience. Or actually, is convenience that simple, seen as time is actually one of the most scarce resources. Now, this may sound cliche, but that is why at MFC, we don't look at this as just financing a vehicle, but rather financing a dream. Now, with that said, the very next step in terms of this journey is ensuring that you make the right choice in terms of choosing financial backer. So what this actually means is going in and finding a backer that is suited to your specific need. Now, in this context, we've identified 3 key attributes to look at when going down financial backing. So firstly, 1, can my finance house help me to finance my dreams? And all that speaks to is the ability to create offerings, a variety of offerings that actually speaks to your need in terms of the finance. Secondly, can they help you make better financial decisions? And what you want to look at here specifically is how are you kept honest throughout that process to ensure that you get maximum value in terms of your commitment? And lastly, can they help you navigate through financial distress? And this piece is a little bit more expanded, as you want to have someone that is there to support you in time of need. But it's also good knowing that you have a financial backer that will provide you with a list of value-added products throughout the life cycle of your actual journey. Now, once you've been able to make the choice, you're almost ready to now start that application process. However, at MSC, we've actually looked at it from a client perspective, and we've designed a model that we call the ability model. Now, the reason that we look at it as the ability model, each of these aspects helps you to better understand what that journey could look like for you, and effectively it allows you to create the ability for yourself to actually proceed in terms of that application process. Now, if you refer to the presentation on the extreme, your left-hand side, my right, you would find that we've segregated 2 of the very key abilities that we find is the first steps that you need to take in understanding this journey. So I'm going to start off with equitability. And thanks to Shane, who's really unpacked this from a value perspective, because specifically what this relates to is there actual value in the asset that I'm now going to go and finance? So not to labor too much on this point based on what Shane has already shared in terms of value. However, one thing that we need to understand, sometimes the perceived value of that asset might not necessarily tie into its true value. And when going down the line of finance, this is something you have to consider. And I think Shane has mentioned this before. The banks will look at that equity portion of your vehicle. And this is where you need to understand you might not be able to request for finance for 200,000 per se, where the true value of that vehicle is only worth 100,000. The second point, suitability. And I think this is my favorite one because it talks to you as a client specifically. And what this points to is your ability to afford finance based on your pocket. No one else knows that portion better than you do. Now, when you go down this journey, it's not about just being able to actually afford the finance from a pocket perspective, but what are some of the other goals, dreams, and aspirations you have that taps into that same source? Now, with that said, there's a number of other abilities that we actually look at just to assist and guide us through this type of process. One of them being stability, which is your income and residency. Remember, this is a long-term commitment, and therefore it's critical that you can show stability in your income through this long-term commitment as well. Now, we move over to affordability, and I think it's very key for us not to confuse affordability with suitability. So yes, affordability may talk to what you can afford. So once you've gone through your assessment process and you have an outcome, you have a good understanding of where your affordability sits. But how the two differs is like mentioning with lifestyle. So you understand your aspirations, and when you look at what your pocket has, you may have an aspiration to take up studies in the next 6 months. So even though the affordability might point to 5,000 Rand for the vehicle, it's a consideration of your own lifestyle that you need to look at before taking that step forward. Now, with that said, and the continuous rehashing on this being a long-term commitment, one other critical point will be sustainability. Now, sustainability actually looks a little bit backwards. Because this is a long-term commitment, you want to create a position for yourself where any previous commitments that you may have had are well kept, as checking back on your track record will be the key driver in understanding whether you can hold this commitment going forward as well. Finally, traceability. Does your information check out? One of the key things is obviously understanding the client, because this is a partnership that you go into with your finance house. And I think the easiest way said is, if you're asking for that much, the least you can do is at least be honest. Right. Now, once you've gone through this process and you've actually ticked all of the tick boxes in terms of your ability model, it does create this perfect platform for you to run through your application process, go through the assessment and effectively bring yourself closer to realizing your dreams in terms of actually collecting that vehicle. But there is more to finance than just that portion. It's not all about just driving off with your new baby, but also understanding the post-sales portion of this. And this directly talks to servicing. So when we looked at those three key attributes, and if you've taken the time to make the right selection in terms of how you actually want to take on that journey, you would have the assurance and the comfort knowing that even through the servicing component of your actual journey through finance, you would find that you are well supported, you get the level of value-added services you're looking for, and finally you get to a point where you take on the ownership of your asset and you can fully realize your dreams, preparing to take on the next one. Thank you.
Fantastic, right? Round of applause for Darren. There we go. Darren, I do have a couple of questions. Obviously, when people are applying for finance, there's an element of risk, I'd say, from your end. How do I, as somebody who's applying, mitigate rather that risk and maybe improve my credit profile when applying for finance?
So I think when you look at finance, there's always risk. And I think it's about understanding the various levels of risk.
Sure.
So I think when you look at it from an individual perspective, and one of the key things is, and something that we've pointed to, which is that sustainability portion. Especially going down the line of finance, it would require an assessment,
Sure.
unlike a cash transaction situation. And maintaining a good credit record is generally something that will motivate for a positive outcome when you go down that journey, and definitely helps to mitigate a number of the risks that we would look at.
Sure. I mean, you've raised a valid point. A lot of people think it's better to buy cash all the way through their life, but sometimes you do need that account that shows that you can service your debt.
100%. So I fully agree with you. I think the only way that we can assess the ability for you to repay or service that contractual debt, and also to hold it from a long-term standing, that track record and being able to actually take on credit
Sure.
is very key in that process.
My last question for you. Interest rates vary, going from organization to organization. How do you guys kind of figure that out? Obviously, we've got prime lending rate. You guys sometimes add a little bit on top. How does that fluctuate or change?
So I think this directly speaks back to the point that you brought up around risk. So, as a client and sharing that abilities model, there's a few aspects that you need to look at from your side of things. Do I have the relevant income? What does my affordability look like? How have I managed my commitments previously? And this all goes into a bucket or an assessment in which we can almost categorize individual clients based on that information. And that is why it's so critical to ensure that track record is always kept on par.
I thought that was my last question. I was actually wrong. Sorry, gang. Obviously, I'm a freelancer, so my profile is very different for someone who has consistent, gainful employment. How does that change things when applying for finance?
So, I think as time has evolved and we see, a number of different careers that come up and people pursuing different initiatives to actually create income.
Sure.
The one thing I can say is, in terms of that banking industry, there's a lot more flexibility that does exist. So, we understand the fact that as clients move forward, we need to meet those needs of clients.
Sure.
So I think, it's not a massive variance, to a normally salaried individual that gets a salary each month. If you can provide information of stability in the income factor, I think that's good enough for you to be able to move forward in that journey as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Another round of applause for Darren. That was incredible insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gang, it's almost time for our final speaker, but before we move on, again, we've got a couple of questions that you guys can answer to stand a chance of winning one of those petrol vouchers or that advanced driving course. The two questions that reference Darren's presentation are as follows. Here we go. Number one, what are the key attributes to consider when searching for a finance house? That's question number one. I'll repeat it for you. What are the key attributes to consider when searching for a finance house? Remember, if you're on the stream, let us know in the comment section. If you're here in person, write those answers down. We'll collect them in a bit as we figure out who our winners are. I'm going to repeat question one last time. What are the attributes to consider when searching for a finance house? Question number two, name at least 3 abilities that will influence your finance application. If you saw, there was a lovely Formula 1 illustration that had a few options up there. And the question again is name at least 3 abilities that will influence your finance application. If you don't remember, they were on the screen as an appendix to a Formula One illustration, image. Well, you guys went focused. It's okay, it's okay. One last time, I'm going to repeat these. Name at least 3 abilities that will influence your finance application. Clue is there was a Formula One car that was doing a pit stop, and there were a bunch of abilities. Oh no, wait, no. Wow, guess we're giving away these prizes now. That's wonderful. One last time, name at least 3 abilities that if you get this one wrong, I can't. We must ban you. We can't. Open book test. If you get these ones wrong, name 3 abilities. We'll give everyone a moment to jot down their answers as we prep our next and final speaker for this morning's presentations. Of course, we got a little something special for our next speaker. Everyone good? Everyone looks settled, like you put in pens down, as they say. Pens down, gang. All right, gang, it's time for our final speaker for this morning. Some of you may know him on social media, an incredible reviewer. But let's play a little bit of a clip to show you a little bit about this lovely person joining us in a bit. There we go. Let's get a round of applause going. Everybody get involved. Please welcome to the stage the wonderful Muzi Sambo. Fantastic. Hello, Muzi. I think your mic is not on at the moment. Let's have a double check over there. It's live. That's what happens. There we go.
Oh, yes.
There we go. Fantastic. One more time. How are you doing, lovely person?
I am good, and greetings to your audience at large. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. I mean, some people may know you from your YouTube content, but of course you've got another life outside of that. You man with 2 lives, Clark Kent vibes. What do you do outside of reviewing cars and the motoring industry?
Oh, yes, I'm a full-time dentist by profession.
Wow.
And then automotive content creation is just a hobby that I'm passionate about. And I've been a YouTuber for about 8 years now, but I didn't start with cars. I was doing music, and at some point I hit a brick wall because of copyright issues and things like that.
Okay.
And then I switched to real estate, didn't gain some traction. And then I was like, okay, let me do cars. And then I became popular. That's where people started knowing me when I was pushing out more car content in Mzansi context.
There we go. We love the catchphrase.
Yeah, so
what drove you towards cars? Oh, excuse the pun. What intrigued you about cars when you first kind of got into that world?
Yeah, I think my love for cars started at an early age. Yeah, like with any other guy, it all begins with toys. You know, the toy you get at a supermarket for like a 50 rand. From the small toy of 50 rand, you move to one with bigger wheels. And from the one with bigger wheels, you want one that has lights and it's battery operated. You can operate with a remote. From there, it's video games. My friend had a PlayStation 2, so we used to play like a Need for Speed, Most Wanted, Cardboard. We would start a game in the morning and finish it same day. You start from level 1 and rest all the bosses until same day. So the passion was also there. At school, me and my friends used to argue about cars all day, every day. Like we would argue about cars. Sometimes the arguments were almost getting physical. Arguing about cars. Which car is the fastest in the world? Which one? It almost got physical. So the passion was there. Even when I got to varsity, the love for cars grew. Because in first year, there was a module called computer literacy. So they were teaching us about computers, how to create PowerPoint presentation and Excel. I did computer literacy in high school. So when everyone was busy with Excel spreadsheet, I was Googling cars. I'm like, Renault RS, 500,000. I'm like, that's cheap. That time I didn't even have 1,000 rands in my bank account.
That's wild.
So the love for cars has always been there, and at every stage of my life.
That's incredible. I think when I watch your content, a lot of people who buy cars are torn, right? We know cars are a status symbol, so sometimes you want that top spec car, but sometimes you have to make a sensible decision. How do you tell people to decide? Should you go for that fly, fancy car, or should you make a more sensible choice? How do you figure that out?
I think for me, I look at cars as from a value proposition, for their value proposition. What value are you going to derive from that car, irrespective of the badge that is in front of that car? And also, one of the reasons that influenced me to be that kind of a person is that I qualified as a dentist at an early age. I was like 23.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the transition from being a student to being a doctor at the age of 23, you are making all this big money. You can lose yourself easily.
Sure.
So I consumed a lot of personal finance content, read a lot of books. And then the financial literacy that I have is the one that guides my decisions with cars and whatever. So it's more about the value the car brings to you, not the badge and what other people perceive about it. Because people really don't care what you drive. They don't. It's not about the badges. It's about the value that you're going to derive from the car.
Of course, there's an opportunity cost with any car, right? You could be spending 10,000 here, and then you said it. Sometimes people have very expensive cars, but then live in the back room.
Those are some of the things. We are eating pap and eggs every day for 5 years just so you can afford to pay this thing.
Well, it's an interesting balancing act. Of course, when we talk about cars, one of the most important things is kind of figuring out what you need from a car and then the process of test driving them. We wanted to chat to you a little bit more about that. What should you know even before you go to a dealership to test drive a vehicle?
The very important thing about test drives is that a test drive comes with terms and conditions. So you shouldn't test drive a car before understanding the full terms and conditions, because there are certain things that you are liable for in the event of a crash, because cars are a high value asset.
Sure.
So if you damage it, you may be liable for a damage. I know a lady who test drove a car, she damaged it, she was not aware of the terms and conditions.
Yes.
And she was told she was liable for the full damage, not just the excess.
Oh, no.
But now it is the responsibility of the dealer to make sure that the car is comprehensively insured. Just in the event where it happens to be in an accident, they will just pay an excess and the insurer will cover that. But in some instances,
yes,
it may happen that the circumstances around your accident only say that you have to be fully liable. Maybe let's say you skipped a road robot and you were in an accident, you will be liable for the full damage. If it's a 500,000 rands car, you'll have to pay for the car.
Oh, wow.
From your pocket. So
right.
Those are things that you should understand before you even take the car. But some dealers, they are very busy. When you get there, like, my man, you want to test drive a car? Here are the keys. Where's your license? Yeah, then you just go. But don't get into a car and test drive it before understanding the full terms and conditions, what you are responsible for, what they are responsible for.
That's great advice. Yeah, do that due diligence even before you go to the dealership.
Yes, and then you start asking relevant questions before even hitting the road. Because cars come with different features. Now there's no point in test driving a car if you don't know its special features, because those are the things that you need to experience when you are test driving the car. So you have to communicate with the salespeople, because they are sort of like your product specialists.
Yes.
So they know the car better than you. So you must ask, what features does this car come with? So that when you are test driving, you can be able to experience, maybe it's adaptive cruise control,
yes,
lane change warning, and blind spot monitoring. Those are things you experience when you know about them. But if you don't know about those features, you just drive the car straight from the dealer and they can be like, that was pretty cool. But you don't know what you were trying to experience.
Sure, what you were looking out for in that drive.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Firstly, how do you approach a dealer? Once you have an idea of a car you want, what's the best way to approach a dealership to arrange a test drive?
There's about 3 ways you can use to request a test drive. You can use a walk-in, but that one is not advisable because dealers are very busy. Some of them are very busy.
Sure.
So you can't just show up unannounced. You have to book prior. But a walk-in is also an option. And then you can also do it telephonically or use their website, the OEM website. They usually have a section there to book a test drive. You just put in your details and you will secure yourself a test drive. It's free for everyone. All you need is a valid driver's license. They won't even need your payslip to prove that you can afford the car or not. You can so much just go and test drive any car. You need a valid driver's license and you are good. So it's your walk-in, telephonically, and the website of the OEM.
You brought up something quite interesting. I recently went to a dealership that required me to have pre-approval before they could let me drive a high-performance vehicle. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it happens with some cars because an average guy like me, there's no way I can afford a Rolls Royce car. Come on. So I can't walk into a Rolls Royce dealer and be like, I'm here to double like my guy. Please be serious. So there's certain cars that you cannot just test drive, and because also test drive costs money, for being honest.
Sure.
Because they need fuel to run the car, and we are clocking mileage. Imagine if like 10 people can come and test drive the car for like 20 kilometers every day. By the end of 6 months, that car would like have a high mileage.
Sure.
So it's costly for them. So they can't just allow anyone if it's like a luxurious car.
Sure. Fully understand. I'm intrigued now. We've made it to the dealership. We've made these arrangements. Once we're in the car, what are we looking for as a consumer? Firstly, let's talk about these features, these mod cons, modern convenient things. Do you need automatic climate control and cruise control? What does the kind of average person need in their car?
With the technological features, it's a matter of personal preference. What works for you might not work for me.
Sure.
But there are certain things that I deem as gimmicks. You know, they're just there to lure you in, like your wireless car charging. With some cars, they really work. But with some, that thing you can put there, it makes your phone hot, but it doesn't charge. And they are there.
Sure.
But it's also a matter of just personal preference. I want this for my convenience, and if it will work for you, then you can go for it. But some things, they don't work with some cars.
Sure. I'm interested. Do people need to have some kind of understanding of cars so that they know what they're looking for in the experience? The reason I ask is, I think, for instance, when you drive a CVT car, for people who don't know, it doesn't have gears per se, so it may make a sound that may be off-putting, maybe automatic gearboxes, the difference between DSGs or a manual box. What kind of knowledge should somebody know when they're going to test drive a car about the vehicle so they know that they're getting the actual experience?
Okay. Yeah, you also have to know that cars come with different variants. It could be the same model, but different variants. Is like an entry-level model, mid-spec, and then top of the range, and sometimes they're like different engine derivatives. It could be the same model, but it's a petrol, or same model, but it's diesel.
Sure.
And also the engine capacity, it could be a 1 liter, 1.2, 1.6, but it's the same model. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you test drive the top of the range model, but you can't afford it.
Sure.
Then due to budget constraints, then you go buy the entry level model because the experience is no longer going to match.
Sure.
You test drove a top of the range, but then you bought the bottom of the range, so it no longer balances.
Sure,
so
sure.
you must make sure that you test drive the one that is within your affordability bracket.
The trim level and the spec that you're looking for.
If you are only affording the entry-level model, test drive the entry-level model because you get the true experience of how the car is going to be when you are living it with it.
Sure,
that's
when
you test drive the top of the range and then you buy bottom of the range, then there's a mismatch.
It's not going to add up over there. Of course, we're talking about test driving. Once you're in the vehicle, what are the things you look out for? I know some of the things I check for is rattles in the cabin. I'm a used car guy, but obviously new cars, you won't experience that. But what do you look for in a test drive?
The most important thing is the sitting position. You must be able to sit comfortably in a car.
Okay.
This other day, I saw this other guy. He is tall and buff. He was in a Renault Kwid. He was sitting like this. I looked at the guy and I thought to myself, my man, if you sneeze there, that car is going to explode. So you must make sure that before you even consider a car, you can be able to find a perfect, comfortable position for yourself. Because some cars are designed differently.
Sure.
Some are just stylish, they look nice, but if you sit there, the leg room is compromised, you can't load anything. So those are the first thing that you have to do is the comfortability of the car. How comfortable is it? Are you going to be able to find a comfortable sitting position? Then when you hit the road, there's the issue of road noise and wind noise and things like that. That's why it's very important to test drive a car. When you test drive a car, you must test it for its purpose. If you are mostly going to be driving in town, don't test drive the car in the freeway.
Sure.
If you are going to be driving in the freeway, don't test drive the car in town. Because when you hit the freeway, you want to do your 120, 170, and... hypothetically,
Allegedly.
Yeah. So you find yourself struggling with wind noise and things like that. Because when you were test driving the car in town, you were doing 60. So the wind noise wasn't a problem. The road noise wasn't a problem.
Sure.
But as soon as you hit the highway, that's where the problem. So you must test for its purpose. If you're going to be driving in town, test it around town. And also you must ask the dealership, what's the maximum permitted duration for the test drive?
Okay.
Because some of the things cannot be noticed with like a 5 minutes short test drive, like
Yes.
your fuel consumption. You can't tell how fuel efficient the car is with just a 5-minute test drive. It's not possible. It should be over like a longer period of time, and you can say, okay, I poured a full tank, I drove 1 hour, now it's half tank, it chows.
Fair. That's a fair question. Somebody told me once that sometimes when you drive a car, you should drive it on not good roads, so that you can tell what the car is really about. What do you think about that idea?
Yes, you must try it in different situations as well, even different weather, because sometimes you may find the car is some leaks and things like that. Because you don't only test drive brand new cars.
Sure.
Because also the used cars as well, you have to test drive them, because you can't just buy. In as much as you ask for a fitting room when you are buying like a 60 rand skinny jean, you have to ask for a test drive when you are buying a car, whether it's an old scrap that
What? I hear you.
yeah. So even when you are buying a beat up car, it's a second hand, a high mileage, you have to take it for a test drive. Test it in like different weather, when it's hot, when it's raining, see whether it's not leaking oil and things like that. That's where you start seeing that, no, man, this is a red flag.
What are some of those red flags? You get in the car, what are some of the things? Maybe a window switch is not quite working right, or gauge clusters. What are obvious red flags people should look out for when they are on a test drive?
You need to check for the comfort. Because now, with most of us, we just like cars when we see them on the road, but we don't know how they drive.
Sure.
Then there's cars like your budget cars, then there's your Vrupas. The Vrupas are performance cars. Usually they come with like a firm suspension. So the ride comfort there is kind of compromised. You may like it that the car is Vrupa, but it will break your back, your leg, you feel the bump everywhere you go. The car is extremely uncomfortable.
Sure.
The only nice thing about it is the Vrupa. So you have to check the comfort when you are driving. Is it comfortable when you are driving on bumpy roads? Is the ride quality? How is the ride quality on bumpy roads and things like
Sure.
that? Yeah. So the ride quality is the most important thing. Don't just like a car just because it looks nice, it turns heads and whatever. Because the suspension might be firm, and living with that car as a daily car might just be a nightmare.
That's very important to make sure that it
right
ticks kind of
quality.
those boxes. You have become somebody people revert to when they want to know about cars. What are some of the more random questions, more interesting questions you get asked about cars from your experience?
Monthly installment. Hey, my man, I want to buy a Renault Clio. What's the installment of it? I'm like, you can't answer that question because now the finance deals are not one size fit all.
Sure,
they are
sure.
structured based on your interest rate, the deposit you are going to pay, the duration of your loan, and things like that. So you can't just name a random car. I'm like, I want to buy the new Renault Arcana. What's the monthly installment?
Sure.
So you can't get that one.
What's been your favorite kind of car to drive? You know, I like small little hatchbacks. Are you? Because SUVs have become the thing now. What's your ideal kind of daily driver?
Ideal daily driver. Budget hatchbacks are ideal daily driver. But
Yes.
the car I would really love to own, everyone knows, my audience knows. Blue BMW 3 Series with black wheels and black grill and red brake calipers. You know the brake calipers must be red.
Oh my gosh.
Must be blue. That's my dream car.
I feel
3
like you're
Series.
a performance car kind of a guy. We're going to be at bumper to bumper traffic. That's the thing. You've just brought up something quite interesting. A lot of people do want high performance cars, but you know, there's limitations. We drive on public roads. Most of them are 60 kilometers limited, at most 120. That's something to be aware of, right?
Yes, because when you buy a performance car, like though sometimes you may not get to experience it to its full potential.
Sure.
Because of the factors you've just mentioned. Now you can only drive up to 120. When you are in traffic, you drive as fast as the guy in front of you. So those are the things that some people tend to overlook. They just want the fastest car in the world, but where are you going to drive it?
That is very much true. I mean, in closing, is there any kind of final advice you'd like to give to people who are in search of a car, who are in their financing journey? What else could you kind of let them know that could help them along the way?
The most important thing is a test drive. Test drives are very important. And you must make sure that when you go for a test drive, you test drive the car yourself. Because there's this problem with new drivers. They're usually scared of driving when they just got their license. So you just take your brother there or your uncle to test drive your car for you. But your uncle is not going to be the one who's going to be living with the car. He might like the car for himself, but it might not work for you.
That makes
so if
sense.
you're out there, if you want to test drive a car, test drive your car yourself and then check out different cars. Don't just fixate in one car because you are not going to find the best deal.
That's fantastic. I want to know a little bit more about kind of your YouTube journey. Firstly, what advice can you give to automotive YouTubers who are getting into the world, and how can they set themselves up as somebody who's got a little bit of experience in that world?
Go to school.
That was not the answer I was expecting. Okay, let's say they've gone to school, they've acquired their degree, they've got their backup plan. How do they get started in making car content for YouTube and social media?
Starting with car content is all about starting with what you have. Like as you can see with my channel, most automotive journalists tend to get test cars. They go to press events. I don't get any of those. I just visit different dealerships and just ask to check a car, and I'm recording with the phone. I just shoot the phone, then I get to my room, I do a little voiceover, then I post on the internet. I started with what I have, but with time now I started getting recognition and things like that. Then you rise up the hierarchy. Don't just expect to come in and post one video and you are getting a stream of test cars and press events. It's not, because it does not work like that. You start with whatever you have, make it happen. With time, you're going to get recognized and you will rise up the hierarchy. But go to school. We are not going to make...
You heard it here first. Stay in school. Everyone, another round of applause for the incredible Muzi Sambo. Thank you so much for joining us. That was fantastic. Make sure, again, you take that car out for a test drive. Make sure you feel it out. Of course, we've got a couple more questions we'd like to ask you to stand a chance of winning those incredible prizes. If you're at home, let us know in the chat section. Everyone in person, you can write them down on your sheet of paper. So here we go. Question number 1 relating to Muzi's chat. What's the first and most important thing to know before you take a car for a test drive? Here we go. Number 1. What's the first and most important thing to know before you take a car for a test drive? You know what, I'm feeling kind. I might even get you guys a clue. I'm going to ask Muzi what our clue is. All right, in terms of the most important thing to know, think of that last bit of speech at the end of an advert, you know, that they say really fast. Apply, you know that. You're listening to an advert and at the end, apply. So what's the first and most important thing to know before taking your car out for a test drive? That is question number 1, numero uno. And question number 2, relating once again to our final presentation. Name the methods you can use to request a test drive. Name the methods you can use to book a test drive. We had mentioned 3 earlier. You can go for all 3 if you're feeling lucky. If not, you can just give us one of those 3 possible ways to request a test drive. What are those 3 methods that you can use to request a test drive? We're going to give you all a couple a minute or two to answer these questions. Then we're going to collect them. We're going to collect those and then figure out who our winners are. Okay, we've got a few winners already. These are online winners. Okay, okay. People in the flesh, you're also going to win. Don't panic. All right. So we do have some online winners. People online, hope you're watching, hope you're still tuned in. Of course, Renault Car Convo is the hashtag. Remember, if you are using social media, tweet using that hashtag on whatever platform you are currently using. We have our online winners at the moment. As we wrap up in person, we're going to start collecting those sheets and those answers from our people in the room. So here goes to our online winners. We hope you are watching. There we are, camera number 1. Boom. I'm going to do my own little drum roll. All right, here are our online winners. First is Yolanda Mreke. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Yolanda Mreke. Our next winner is Siphelele Malembe. We assume you are clapping at home. We can't hear. Our next person is Alicia Chetty. Is our third winner, Alicia Chetty. Congratulations. Our fourth winner from our online participants is Tuso Kekana. There we go. It is Tuso Kekana, our fourth winner. Our fifth winner from the online group is Siyabonga Mtimunye. Siyabonga Mtimunye is our fifth winner. And our sixth winner is Zweletu Sambo. Zweletu Sambo. Shout outs to you. I'm going to repeat those names one more time. Yolanda Mreke, Siphelele Malembe, Alicia Chetty, Tuso Kekana, Siyabonga Mtimunye, and Zweleti Sambo. Please leave your email address in the chat box and we'll get in touch with you to give you your prize. One more time, leave your email address in the chat box as we give you your prize. Hopefully you are cheering and clapping at home and going wild and your camera's on, whoever's watching, and you're giving an acceptance speech. We have muted you, it's just to avoid confusion. We are collecting our answers in the group so we find out who our winners are in person. Been a fun, lovely day. We're done. We're basically done. Just have to announce the prize winners, and then we're out of here and we're good to go. We can enjoy a lovely Saturday. Don't know which one of you are hitting the streets. Are you hitting the streets, sir? You are. You're hitting the streets. Nice. That's nice. We love it. What you drive? You are driving, right? What code are you rolling with? Because remember back in the day, they used to say, get a code 14, it's easier. Then now you are practicing in a flatbed truck, and it's like, this is bizarre. Code 10. Oh, snap. Which one is passenger cars? You've got a code 10. Okay, you are making deliveries of... It's okay. How long have you been driving? 2019, so still a relatively newish driver. Okay, that's cool. We support you. We give thanks for getting our last batch of answers in. And then we're gonna mark. We've got Wayne over there. Wayne's having a look. It's okay. I'm gonna consult with my gang. We're doing a random draw. Okay. All right. Well. Oh my word! This is wild. Where are we? This is ridiculous. There's more answers on that side. Good Lord. I'm going to do a random draw and then find out the answers are wrong. All right, gang, we're just going to say a special thank you to everybody who's joining us online. We're wrapping it up for you over there. Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope you enjoy the afternoon, and we'll chat to you soon. Remember, Renault Car Convo. Thank you again to everyone who's joining us on stream. We're shutting that down and then wrapping it up over here with everybody in person. You guys were still live. We're still in the flesh. That stream is over, but we are still... we are still here streaming in real life. All right, cool. We're just getting our answer sheets together as we wrap up our online stream. It is done. Oh, now we can be crazy. Here we go. We're gonna start.